Okay, I said I wasn't going to cry, and now I don't know if I can hold that true, but I'll try not to. I don't know where to start, so I guess at the beginning would be a good way to go with. So at the beginning of this year, when we were still just little elects, I looked much younger than I do now. I had bright eyes, and now I'm haggard and old. But a guild hat came up to me when I was a little elect and said, "I wouldn't worry too much about your Sab year. Everyone kind of sees you as the bimbo figure anyway, so I don't think anyone will give you much trouble." And that hat was actually a female, so yeah, there's liberation for you all over. But I hope I proved everybody wrong. I don't think I've shown too much of a bimbo like this year, although I often say things before I think about them. But this does start me off with the elephant in the room, that I am the only female on the Sabbatical officer team. And many people ask me whether I'd like it if there were more girls on the team and what it's like being the only girl on the team. And I guess that's kind of similar to asking a twin what it's like to be a twin, because they don't know what it's like to not be a twin. I don't know what it's like to have girls on the Sab team. But what I can say is that I think being the only girl has advantaged me in many ways. People are not mean to me as they are to the other boys in lots of ways, because everyone's scared that one of the liberation groups will turn around and be like, don't be horrible to the girl, she has a tough enough time for as it is. So thank you to Kelly Rogers and everybody for that, because that has helped me out this year. It also helps me out when the university want me to go to things, because they're like, make it gender balanced. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come. Gives me more wins this year. So in all honesty, I think I've been treated better for being a girl. And the only time it becomes abundantly clear to me that I am the only girl on the Sab team is when we have to go to these big do's, and I turn around to the rest of the team and I'm like, what are you wearing tonight? And the answer is always suit or tux, because they don't have the same long, short, high heels, no high heels, what colour, black, as I do. So I think that is the hardest point of it, if I'm honest, and that sounds very vain, but that is true. So there you go. But I think you'll have an incredible year next year with having lots of girls in the Sab team. Majority girls, in fact. There's a majority girl Sab team, there's a female president, there's a female chief exec, and there's a female chair of the trustee board. So quite frankly, university, checkmate. But it can be intimidating over at the university when you're the only girl, because they're all men. I have a male Sab team, and quite often I'm the only girl. But I hope I've thrived this year and proved everybody wrong about me being a blonde bimbo. But as well as being token female, my role on the Sab team has been Vice President Welfare. Now, I think a lot of people run for VPW because they think it's a bit of a fluffy position, and that they can't run for anything else because they're not very good at other things, so they'll run for welfare, because that can't be hard, can it? And then I have people come back from appeals and stuff that I delegate to them, being like, I don't want to be VPW, your job is horrible, your job is hard. And my job is hard. It's like being VPHC, it's a very forward-facing position. We speak to a lot of students, I see a lot of students. And I see some people in some quite frankly terrible positions. In fact, worse than that, I'm one of the first 5 people at the university to get told when somebody has died or committed suicide. Now, when Luke, my predecessor, told me this, when we had handover, he put both his hands on my shoulders and he was like, you need to find a way to deal with that. You need a coping mechanism. To which I replied saying, you're a cynical person, that won't happen on my watch. And less than 3 weeks later, I had to sit down members of our Sabbatical officer team and tell them that actually, not only had someone died, but a dear friend of theirs had died. And that was one of the hardest days of my life, and I barely knew the person. So it will happen, it does happen, and it is horrible. On top of that, I get people ringing me at 11 o'clock at night saying, my housemate's punched a hole in the wall, they've lost a plot, I don't know what to do. I get people coming into my office crying. I get emails from students saying, my housemate's disappeared, I haven't seen them in days. And there is nothing I can do for a lot of those things. I, like every other Sabbatical officer position, I know this is quite a low level, it'll get happier, I promise, I'm not really the sad Sab. But there isn't always stuff you can do, and actually we're not qualified to do anything, we're not glorified counsellors. VPW has no training in that, we are not insured to do it, worse, and we can't deal with any more legal fees, so I certainly wouldn't want to let you down that route. So Jeffro very quickly this year will have to learn the art of sitting someone down, giving them a biscuit, yes there is a biscuit jar in our room, giving them a tissue, calming them down, and then walking them down to the ARC to people that are much more qualified than you are. So for that, I would like to say thank you very much to the ARC staff, who are incredible and have been a support system to me all year and every other VPW that's ever existed. So as well as being VPW, what people quite often forget is that a large part of our role is being a Sabbatical officer. And I would like to speak about being a Sabbatical officer, because actually you are a team. It is a large part of your role. You do some things that are just being a Sabbatical officer, being a vice president, as opposed to being a president. no, that doesn't make sense, as opposed to being, you are also the president, as opposed to being your individual specific roles. So I would like to thank my SAB team, and I'd like to thank each of them individually. So James, Robo, you have been my support system during campaigning. When I slumped down on a curb, blobbing my heart out, going, there's no way I can beat Matt Rolfe, have you seen his kangaroos? Robo picked me back up, and he told me that I needed to get on with it and carry on, because the underdog does quite often win in these elections. So he's an incredible human being. He can be quite stubborn, but so can we all, because that's part of being a SAB. He's been a big brother to me all year, and the truth is that we have almost nothing in common, and yet I know we'll be best friends for life, and that is what's incredible about being part of a SAB team. Best friends for life. Ollie is like a firework. I was going to say dysfunctional firework, but I thought that might hurt his feelings a little bit. But the truth is, you don't always know when he's going to go off, but you know it's going to happen. And you know when it does happen, it'll be spectacular and often petrifying. I've never seen anyone that cares about student groups and charity quite as much as this man. He's stubborn, he's caring, he's passionate. He's often been my partner in crime on nights out, because unsurprisingly to many of you, even though I'm the only female, I'm actually probably the biggest lad with the going out stakes. And I'm always convincing either Ollie or Jimmy actually to come to Fab. Although I'd like to add on the end of that Ollie can't dance for toffee. Not true. Two-hand shuffle. People berate you for loving procedure, but as a lawyer I empathise with that, and actually I hope you never change. So, Jimmy, Peaches, when you own Park Run, I can't wait to see your name in lights. I'm going to miss your motivational little speeches, even though they sometimes hurt your feelings a little bit. Well, getting fit and stuff like that, and I hope, again, you never change. I hope you keep your passion, but I will always hate you for putting the picture of me at Park Run up on the internet, because when I run, I am horrifically unattractive. I was going to say something nice about Leander, but quite frankly he can do one because he's not here and he hasn't been very nice to us in the Skill Council. Simon, whenever people will see us or talk about, will come up to me afterwards and be like, you two bicker like siblings. And it's true, we do. But I think what lots of people won't realise is actually outside of this meeting and outside of SOG, me and Simon actually get along really well. We are like siblings, we do bicker, and we always do that. But I absolutely admire your commitment and passion to a cause, and I just hope one day you can change the world, because I think it probably will be a better place, even if I don't believe in communism. And finally, I'm going to watch this back and see what I missed. Finally, David, El Presidente. It's been bumpy. Poor David has had to put up with me this year, and he hasn't had it easy, because I don't take well to being facilitated, as David puts it. And it's I know that sounded dodgy. I didn't want to say line managed, because it's going to be on the internet and I want a job. So it's true that me and Franklin have very different methods and tactics of dealing with things. I'm very much a bull in a china shop, and David likes to look at the big picture, whereas I don't. But we expect a lot from each other, we believe in each other a lot, and I think on more than one occasion this year we needed each other, and I don't think that will be the last time this year ended. So thank you very much for helping me, for allowing me to grow, and for being my friend. So what I'd also like to say is that I have had a few achievements this year, and this is going to be a self-indulging bit, but I'll just list them really quickly because I don't want to bore you all with everything that we do and going into loads of detail, because actually most of you won't care. But I got healthier food in Joe's, well, me and Jimmy did. We worked quite hard on that, and we got to taste loads of food, and that was really hard work. We also got lower food in Spa, but they didn't, lower fat in certain foods in Spa, like low-fat yogurts and stuff, and they didn't let us taste anything. Freshers Fest and Chill Out. Now I know that happens every year, but actually it is an epic battle every year, and we reduced the number of taxis this year from, I know 2 years ago there was 12 ambulances, sorry Joe, across Freshers Fest, across the 2 weeks, and this year there was only one, and that kid proceeded to go out the next night, so we actually did really well there, and I'd like to thank Tim Lucas for being stubborn and actually helping a lot, being knock of the year. The night bus disappeared last year, and I brought it back, but I changed it because towns died a little bit. And so it goes from the guild now because it's our service and it's from our building, so that's pretty good. And hopefully that will continue. And I hope Jeffro keeps it going because although it's a massive drain on resources, it's actually a really good thing. And the world isn't a safe place, especially when you're a bright-eyed little fresher. Zero tolerance, I kind of got lumbered with that. Thank you very much, Luke and Johnny Davis. But it was in my manifesto as well, and I think it's an incredible thing. And it took me 8 months to draft and redraft and re-redraft about 15 times the policy for zero tolerance. So I'm so glad that it's gone through, and I can't wait to see Jeffro train every single member of staff, student staff and committee in that, so there's your legacy. Shag Week. Shag Week is hilarious, if not just the fact that you get to go up to the big wigs at the university and have them go, did that small little blonde girl just say the word shag at me? Which is really fun, actually. Shag stands for Sexual Health Awareness and Guidance. It was the most hilarious week of my life. It came into also a week where everything went wrong in the guild. And I hope that when Jeffro gets to do it, because you will do it whether you like it or not, you get a week that's a little bit calmer and you get to finish everything, because I need you to push about 200 love jams so to make our money back and to donate it to World AIDS Day. So, but Shag Week was incredible, and I really hope it does continue because it was a lot of fun to do. Erasmus students was part of my manifesto, and actually they proved really hard to help because although you can say the words Erasmus students, they're all completely individual, but the mentors will hopefully be working with them as soon as they get here next year, and that'll make their transition much easier. The general meeting, I voted no to every single thing, and Tim, Lucas and Simon are both going to hate me for this, but I believe that next year we will hold another one, hopefully, and you will be able to legitimise it, because I don't believe it was legitimate this year. And I know that's like sprung upon you and that's completely your decision, but if you want to, I think it would be good to hold it on the sub team's terms and the trustee board's terms. And I'm sure that will come as a nice shock to everybody that I believe that. So also gender neutral toilets. We have them after 10 years of VPWs being like, we need gender neutral toilets, and we have them. They're in a completely obscure place in the guild, and I'll admit that, but there's not a lot of space in this building that you can take up. And they're there at least for your enjoyment. And finally, extenuating circumstances and fit to sit. This is actually a win that we got yesterday. Myself and Jeff went to a meeting at the university, and not only did they admit, in not certain terms, but they admitted that it wasn't a great policy and that it does need to change. And hopefully we'll get rid of the words fit to sit out of it forever. It will be a much better policy, much kinder to students, and hopefully that is my legacy to the average student. So you're welcome. Finally, well, not finally, I've got 2 more things to say. First of all, I'd like to say to the new SAB team a few words of advice. SAB Club will get you. Don't fight it. No matter how much of a gym person you think you are, it will get you. And embrace it. Buy slightly larger clothes for it, or slightly smaller if you're a hedge guy. Even Jimmy has complained about putting weight on this year, so it will get you. He is king of every form of sport, and it will get you. I'm sorry. So embrace it the rest of your life. You've got to be skinny or hench. It's only 1 year, and it's a very busy one. But on a serious note, you're going to have the most incredible year of your life. It will be hard. You will fight everyone, including each other. But you'll get through it together. You will need each other, and we have needed each other at some points of this year. And although we don't look like a united front, behind closed doors, most of us get along. Take time to reflect throughout your year. It's quite easy to punish yourself in your SAB year, but even the tiniest things that you do that you won't realise will change things. I learned this from SABs gone by, and I'm sure half of them don't realise that it's their fault that I'm here. So whoever you speak to, you will change them, and you should give yourself credit for that. Make sure you give yourself a break, make sure you have fun, but make sure you get stuff done when you need to. You do have the power to make change, although it won't always feel like it. And you won't realise any of this until you write this speech and look back on it. You won't sleep as much as you need to, except maybe Poppy, who's used to this after Holdsworth and a law degree. But you will be tired, but you've got the rest of your life to sleep. So finally, my thank yous. Firstly, I'd like to thank people without whom I would not be here. And some of these are going to sound a bit odd to people, but I'd like to thank the officer team of 2010/11, which, well, mostly Ash Chambers, Jules and Johnny Kirby. When I was a hall ambassador for the freshers in my second year, I didn't know what the guild was. I wanted to be there so that I could make sure that the new freshers had the same fun that I had. Always a caring and giving person, I know. Johnny Kirby explained to me what the guild was and explained to me what an officer was because I didn't know. He was an incredible sab, and he showed me that you have to have passion to be a sabbatical officer, and I hope that I was as good as he was, because without him I wouldn't have even known this place existed. I'd like to thank Ash and Jules, who were both ex-lawyers and avid Holdsworth members, and they told so many people that I'd be running for VPW. I didn't really have a choice. My pride would not have let me not run for VPW, and without them I certainly wouldn't be here. And I'd love to thank them because they were incredible at being pushy. I'd like to thank last year's officer team, especially Zuki, for picking me up after I lost my guild council election. He told me that he probably couldn't have won a guild council election, yet he was still a sab, and without that I probably wouldn't have run, because losing in this chamber is quite a horrifying thing. I'd like to thank Luke for a great handover. I'd like to thank Hugo for being on the end of the phone whenever I need him this year, and Mark for also being on the end of that phone. I would like to thank my campaign team, who also without them I wouldn't be here, and my housemates and friends this year, both old and new, for putting up with me. Quite often I put my job before everyone and everything this year, and that is a large part of being a sab, and where the myth comes from that you can't hold a relationship down. But for the most part they've all been very understanding and very patient with me. I'd like to thank the guild staff. I've made some friends here that I will keep with me for life, but they never get thanked for, well, they rarely get thanked for our achievements, and actually staff are quite often behind a lot of it. And I know the system's supposed to be that we get the thanks and we also take all the crap, but that's not true by any stretch of the imagination. Guild staff, most of them forward facing, and they take a lot of the crap as well. And it can be quite thankless for them, but the staff of this organisation are incredible, they're dedicated, and I'll miss so many of them when I go. I'd like to do a special thank you to the Chief Executive. Without a woman on the SAB team, I've often turned to her for advice. She's been a role model to me, and she will remain so for the rest of my life. Chris Twine over at the university. Now, Chris Twine is the Director of Student Services. He's a member of university staff that I have the most to do with. And I know he'll be watching the Twitter feed for this, so anybody that's tweeting right now, I want a direct quote towards Chris Twine. Chris Twine is an absolute babe. That is the only word that can be used for him. He is an absolute babe. He is an asset to the guild over at the university. He's been so supportive to me throughout my term in office. I couldn't have made the changes that we are making to extenuate circumstances and fit SIP policy without his support yesterday, when he would turn around and say, Katherine's right. And not many members of university staff would do that in front of someone that's more senior than them, and I couldn't thank him enough. So he is an absolute babe. The officer team, the whole of it goes without saying. And finally, students. Students voted me in, students believed in me, students got involved in my campaigns, and they've made this year worthwhile. So from the hundreds of students that I met during Welcome Week to the hundreds that I meet every week at Fab, which is a form of member engagement, and I don't care what anybody says, to the individual students that I represent daily in appeals, you've made this year worthwhile, and I can't thank any of you enough. So thank you and goodbye.